right? Okay, so again, the goal of this little lab session is just to familiarize ourselves with the software for this semester. So I'm gonna share my screen with you. All right. Okay, so hopefully what you can see, this is pinned. All right. I'm not sure if I need to put this up here or not. I guess I'll find out after. I'll just keep it. Okay, so you guys right now should probably be able to see a YouTube page. Man, Zoom is super annoying because it's putting the box right in the middle of my browser. Okay, so the way that we access the software. So we go to myapps.mcewen.ca. So this is going to be the link that we use to get into the actual homepage. And these instructions are also given in the course outline. And I believe that I sent out an announcement to my lab section with these instructions as well. And I know John's going to post a video about this as well. So there should be lots of external resources just so that you can remember. Now, basically what this is a virtual server that houses all of the different software tools that we use in the statistics programs at McEwen. And the software program that we're going to use is called SPSS. So you can log in to the VMware Horizon using your McEwen credentials. So for example, my username is franzakb, and then my password is, no, I'm just kidding. But, and then, you enter in your password. So now what you should see is a page that looks like this. Can you guys see my browser page where it says Horizon and it has all these different apps? Okay, and then can you guys get onto this as well? Has anyone tried? Okay. Okay, sweet. So there's two things you can do. You can just search SPSS. I mean, that'll bring up the software, or you can just scroll down to SPSS, like whichever. But you can actually see that there's a ton of tools that are available to you here. For example, R and RStudio are in here. I think that somewhere, yeah, Maple is here. If you're taking any other math classes, there's a browser, the file explorers. We're going to be using these a bit. Adobe Reader. So there's tons of different options for getting access to different software. So we're going to use SPSS. So we just click on that app there. And then you can see that it takes a while to load. So you can see here on the little side panel, you'll have this open window thing. And this shows you all the different apps that are available in the system. So you can actually click, if you click SPSS multiple times, you'll just open up multiple different SPSSs. It looks like I had a running issue, so I'm going to try clicking it again. It's going to be very upsetting if I can't get it to work. Oh, there we go. All right, so it pops up and running, and you can see it's a very large program, so it takes quite a while to load, but inevitably we'll get past the blue circle wheel of death here and into the usable part. Okay. All right, so this is SPSS. So you can see what's happened for me is that I've actually opened up multiple different systems because I double clicked it. So you can see this number here, 4. This represents 2 home pages and 2 data visualization pages. We're at the back here. So I'm just going to close one of these because I don't actually need all of this stuff to be open. And then I'll work out the second window in a second. All right, now what we have to do is figure out how to get stuff onto the server, so data files, how to get things off of the server, so output from SPSS. Getting information onto the server is very easy. So if you click open this little side window here, at the top, you have information about the client, and then you have these 4 different icons here. So the copy and paste icon, you have your personal user settings, and then you have this up arrow, down arrow, which is the file transfer panel. So if you click the file transfer panel, it brings up this window here. So you can see that there are 2 options in this window, download and upload. So upload is going to be how we get data onto the server, and then download will be one option to get data off of the server, but we're going to talk about a few different options for that once we get to it. Okay, on the Blackboard page, I posted 3 data sets for today's lab. So those data sets are the achieve data, the program data, and the typing data. So we'll just use the achieve data set for the purposes of this lab. So the way that this is going to work is actually quite straightforward. So you would bring up your file explorer. Like if you're on a Windows machine, this would just be your file explorer menu. And if you're on a Mac machine, it would just be the Finder menu. And then within that area, you're just going to go to wherever you downloaded the data set. So let's say that you've clicked this. It automatically prompts you for download. We'll save this into the download folder. Okay, and then we have here our data set. Now, if you're not in my lab section and you don't have access to the data, I'm dragging it into the chat right now so you can download the data set from the chat on Zoom directly onto your machine. All right, so we have a couple of options here for getting the data onto, come on, Zoom. Move. Sorry, 1 sec. Okay. So we have a couple of options here for getting the data onto the machine. So you can either click choose file, which will bring up a window browser, and then you can utilize that to get the file onto your computer, or you can just open and drag the file right into upload. So both of those will work. All right, now once the file has been into the upload section, if you go back to your side panel menu here, you can actually click on File Explorer for the virtual machine. So the first one, and then you click Documents, and you can see that that's where it's been saved. So this is basically your working drive or your home drive on the server. So every file that you upload is going to be placed into this Documents folder. Now, my suggestion when you're first setting up is to have the document folder open and sort of set aside so that you can easily click on it. So maybe I'll just place mine over in the corner here, and then I'll align my SPSS sort of beside it so I can easily click on it. And then I can see the files that are saved into documents. So again, the upload, download, or the up and down arrow sign panel opens up the transfer window. And then from your machine on your local drive, you can just drag the file right into upload, and that saves it into documents, which you access by clicking File Explorer. All right, any questions at this point? All right. Okay, so to open the file on SPSS, once you have it uploaded, is very straightforward. So we would just click Open, and then we would just click on Achieve. And you can see that one of the nice things about the program is that once you upload it onto the machine, the SPSS program actually opens you in the Documents folder directly. So the data file is already saved there. So we click Open, and then we click Yes. And then you can see we have our program window here, and we have our Achieve data set being loaded into SPSS. Okay, so the hardest part's probably over in terms of uploading. We have the data onto the system, and now we can start working with the data set. So in the lab and in the lecture, we're going to be using Crowdmark to submit the assignments. So I posted here, and I'll just demonstrate how this works for you guys, a little practice assignment. This isn't worth any marks or anything like that. It's strictly for visualizing the process. So when you go to a Crowdmark page, you're going to have something that looks like this. Okay, so this is going to be a Crowdmark submission page. So the way that it works is you need to drag your submissions for each question into these little boxes below. So let's say, for example, that the first question here was asking you to upload an image, like a histogram, and an explanation of what that histogram looks like. So what this is going to require us to do is use SPSS to produce the histogram, and then take the histogram from SPSS and then place it into something like a Word document so that we can get it onto Crowdmark. Now, it's a bit of a circular process, or kind of a U-like process, and I understand it's a bit tedious because you have to go from the server to your computer and then back to Crowdmark, but because of the nature of the semester and whatnot, this is just the way that it's going to be done. All right, so let's start off by building that histogram. When we're using SPSS to construct plots, we use the following commands. So we go graphs, legacy dialogues, and then we select the graph. So in this case, let's do a histogram, right? But you can see that inside graphs legacy dialogues, we have a number of different options for the types of graphs that we can build. And these command lines can also be found in the lab manual. So you can use the lab manual if you forget where the exact command is, but graphs legacy dialogues will always take you to the histogram. And this will be one of the more popular plotting tools that we use in the course. So once we click histogram, we have to select the variable that we want to build the histogram for. So we have two variables here, which are scores and sex. You can see from the table that score is a quantitative variable and sex is it's gender, so it's a qualitative variable. If we're going to be using a histogram, we're going to be building the histogram for scores because histograms are a tool for visualizing quantitative data. So we select scores to go into the variable name simply by selecting scores and then clicking variable. Now, if you want to separate by gender, so have a histogram for female and a histogram for male, you can pump this into the rows, or you can put it into the columns, and that'll just either put the histograms on top of each other or beside each other. So it's just an alternative idea. In titles, you can add in the titles of the plot, right? So here we're going to have histogram for scores, for example. And then we click continue, and then we click OK. And then you can see here in this table, or in the output window, it produces our outputs. Okay. Now, one of the nice things about SPSS compared to our programs is that you can actually edit the titles directly. So if you click on the histogram and then you double click on the histogram rather, it opens up the chart editor. And in the chart editor, you can again edit the title. You can edit the axes here. So for example, I want to capitalize scores. Okay. And then I have frequency, which is fine on the y-axis. Okay. So we can make changes directly to the plots just by double clicking on them within the program, which is a nice feature because, for example, with R, you don't have the same options. Okay, now we want to get this plot into something like a Word document, or we want to download it as a PDF so that we can upload it onto Crowdmark. In general, the strategy that I would recommend is the following. It's the most tedious strategy, so I will suggest an alternative, but I would open a Word document separate on my local drive to the browser screen. Okay, so here is my Word document. Now inside this document, what I would do is I would of course add a title. So this will be practice assignment 1 stat 252 x12l, right? And then what I would do is I would add in the questions, question 1, okay? So what I want to do next is I want to get the histogram into this Word document. So to do that, I go back to the SPSS window, and I have two main options for doing this. The more difficult option would be a right click, come on, and then you click export. So on the graph, I've right clicked and I've clicked export. And then here under document type, I select the type of document that I want this outputted as. So you'll notice that it will output PDF files directly, but you can also output .doc files. And this would be the path that I suggest, because when you output it as a .doc, you can copy and paste directly between the output and the separate file we've set up for containing our solutions. Okay, you'll notice here that we can change the name of our output, and this is being saved on the local drive, so on the virtual machine. So here I will type histogram underscore Q1, for example. And then I click OK. And then if I open up my File Explorer window, you'll notice here that the histogram that I just saved from SPSS is now inside my File Explorer. Now I go back to my transfer window and I click download. So I'm on a Mac machine, so it says click Apple plus C to begin file transfer. If you're on a Windows machine, I assume it's going to be Control plus C. So I highlight the file that I'm interested in, Apple C, and then you'll notice that it's now in the download file. I click download here, and I can save this to my machine. All right. So now on the my actual local machine, I can open up this histogram and I can copy this histogram into my Word document. And now I have saved on my local machine the histogram for, say, question 1. And then maybe I'm asked for a description here. Okay, so I can say something like, the histogram shows that the distribution of the data set is slightly left skewed and appears to have one dominant mode, though there is another mode between 95 and 100. You know, something like this. Okay, now the last part is I want to get this into Crowdmark. Okay, so this is how I would recommend you go about doing this. Once you have your solution saved in a Word document on your local computer, you're going to save this document. Okay, so inside my folder here, I'll call this practice assignment 1. Now, what I recommend you do is you export to type PDF. So when you save it in Microsoft Word, at the completion, you can export this to a PDF file. Okay, so from Word to PDF. Now, when you open your Crowdmark page for submission, and you open up your Finder window on your local computer, you can just drag this into the box directly. Right now, to demonstrate what this is going to look like, I'm just going to open up one of your assignments. Okay, so Catherine Thomas, I'm just going to open this up so everyone can see what this would look like. Now, when I drag my PDF into Crowdmark, okay, you can see it drops in like this, and now you can see your solution within that first question. And this is ideally how everyone is going to submit. So clearly labeled questions within the box. As long as we can find the answers easily and we know where to look, that's the ideal outcome. Okay. All right, and then you would just click submit to save your work. All right, so that would be one method for getting work off of the SPSS browser onto your machine so that you can upload it to Crowdmark. Now you can do the same thing with numerical output as well. So for example, if I wanted to do some descriptive statistics, I would go analyze, descriptives. I would select variable, and then within the option type, I can select the different variables that I'm interested in. So again, this path is analyze, descriptives. You can also do analyze, descriptives, explore. And you can see here that this gives you a whole different set of descriptive statistics compared to the first path. Both of them are going to end up giving you the same information. So for example, if I do analyze, analyze, descriptives, I select my variable, I select the different options that I would like, I click continue and I click OK. I have a table below here, and I can export this in the same way that I did the histogram, save it into my Word doc, and then upload when I'm ready. If I do analyze, descriptives, explore, and then I click OK, you can see that I just have a different visualization of my descriptive statistics, but it's still the same idea. And then you can go export and work it that way. Okay, the other option, like let's say you don't want to take this export path, like there must be a better way, right? Well, a nice like cheap trick here, if you're on a Mac machine, for example, is you can screenshot. So if we close this and I hit Shift Command 3 on my MacBook Pro, I can take a screenshot. And then within the screenshots, so if I open up said screenshot, what I can then do is basically just crop out the part that I'm interested in. And then I can just save this and upload this as a file into the Word doc. And that would work equally well. You can see that this is a high quality image and you get the same result as you do if you export it. So it's two different ways of accomplishing the same goal. Now on a Windows machine, it wouldn't be a screenshot. You would have to use the snipping tool. And then on a Chromebook, I'm not entirely sure how you would screenshot. Oh, so there you go. So I mean, if you go Control-Shift-4, you can just select exactly what you want, which is even easier than what I did, right? Yeah, so it looks like here, if you just search screenshot on a Chromebook, you can find out how to do that directly. And then Rose, thank you for that suggestion. So, you know, I think that ideally, like what'll end up happening is as you start working with the tool, you'll probably be way better at screenshotting and snipping than I would be anyways. But again, like what I wanted to show you here was two different ways of kind of accomplishing the same goal. And then once you have the screenshot saved, the next process would just be putting that into that same Word document so that you can upload your solutions to Crowdmark. So you would save the screenshot somewhere, pull that Word document back up. No, that's the wrong one. Oh, see, one of the mistakes I made is I should have saved my practice assignment as a docx as well. So I'll just pop up a new one. All right. So then maybe here below, I'll go question 2. And then I can go insert, pictures, photo browser. No, it's not it. Insert, pictures, picture from file. And then I would select my untitled photo. And then once that's saved in my Word doc, I can just resize accordingly. Okay, and then maybe because this is a separate question, I'll just move this to a new page. This is an easier process in my opinion. So if you move this to the new page, you can save it as a Word doc, first of all, which is always a good idea. And then you can export this to a PDF. And then if we go back to our practice assignment, one of the nice things about Crowdmark is you can just drag the whole file into Crowdmark directly, and then you can just move the pages around accordingly. So my suggestion would be to put each question on its own page, like separate them so that when you drag it in, you only have to drag once, and then you can just align the questions where they fit with the boxes on the Crowdmark page. In almost every situation, the way the Crowdmark page is going to be set up is that you're going to have to answer all of an entire question together. So it would make more sense to put the picture into a Word document so that when you are asked to describe the photo, you have the picture and then the description rather than a separate image and the description separately. You know, like there's an organization and a flow that is important to us when we're marking it. Yeah, and then Chella, that's a great point. Like, I'm sure that screenshotting is probably a lot easier than I'm making it out to be, but this would be a suggestion for how to get it done. Okay, so those were the main things that I wanted to cover. I just wanted to go over how we get into SPSS and some of the basics of how we can work with it. The descriptive statistic aspect of this, so there's two ways that we can do descriptive statistics, and I'll go over this again next week as well, but they're through analyze, descriptives, explore, and descriptives, and then graphs will be done through graphs, legacy dialogues, and then histogram. The first lab assignment will probably be posted by the end of the day. And the first two questions on that are basically related to the descriptive statistics and the histogram material. So once that's up, you're actually free to get working on that whenever you want. And that isn't due for, and that's due in 2 weeks. So that'll be up, as I said, by the end of the day. I just have to make a few corrections to the typos and whatnot. But yeah, that's pretty much all I want to talk about. If anyone has any questions, I'll hang around, but otherwise I'll post this video afterwards so you guys have it. And again, this isn't a formal lab session. Technically, labs start next week. So, you know, don't feel obliged to stick around until 4 o'clock. I'm sure that everyone wants to get started on their weekend. So yeah, that's all I'm going to cover. So if you guys have any questions, I'll hang around. Otherwise, have a good weekend, and I'll talk to my lab students next Friday. And if you're in my lecture, I'll talk to you on Monday.